Gotcha.
Hey! We're recording the podcast! Shut up!
Good morning to you wherever you are, because it is somewhere for April 1st, 2024. My name is Bertie Burns, sitting right over there. She didn't recognize the drop. Allegedly. Ashley Burns, how you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Happy 1st of April. We survived Easter.
Can I say something?
You can.
I feel like I got April 1st back. I have it back now.
Right. I was going to say, because so with Rooster Teeth, because you incorporated or started the company on the 1st of April, you would never do April Fool's jokes. And now, Bernie, you're free.
I'm free. Not that we will do a lot of April Fool's jokes. Couldn't resist this morning with the opening.
Honestly,
for those
sometimes
of you who don't get it, good for you.
April Fool's jokes just seem like they take too much effort.
Actually, starting the company on April 1st, starting the series on April 1st was it was a comedy series. April 1st, The other thing was, especially it seems like in the video game world, it was always these like ham-fisted attempts at like corporate humor to do things. Occasionally there's some gems, but if you look back across the history of April Fools and all the releases that people do, I don't like exercises in disappointment. You know what I mean? It's like, even if you announce something that's kind of titillating or controversial, and then people find out it's just, some joke that they came up with in the social media department, it's always like, oh. There's always that moment of just like, oh.
But sometimes they don't stay that way.
But sometimes they don't. Those are the gems.
The World of Warcraft with the Pandarans were an April Fool's joke originally, weren't they? I think they were.
I think they were. That's the race of panda people. If you're a person with a enviable life, you don't know what that is.
The trouble with like a global population though, and time zones is that you can't trust anything that happens in the vicinity of April 1st. So
we had that moment yesterday.
Point in case. So Pal World.
Point in case. Okay, go ahead.
The Pal World. I think it was the developers announced like a Pal World dating sim.
So you could date the not Pokemon?
Either I didn't pay close attention. Yeah, date the pals. I don't know if you could date them or if it's pals dating each other. I'm not entirely clear on that. I just saw the announcement and went, it's got to be April Fool's. And I looked at my watch. It's not April Fool's. It's March 31st. And then I thought, wait a minute, where are they? Because in Japan, they would be ahead. And I was like, I think that might make the April Fool's cutoff. And I think it is a joke.
And I think now it's kind of like E3 where people are trying to get ahead of it. They're doing the pre-April Fool's, like they're setting it up, and then it's going to be revealed.
That's against the rules. Can't do that. We're not doing that.
Yeah, it's against the rules for this time-honored tradition of all the fools landing on April 1st. What's, to your point, though, what's some gems you remember that stuck?
The Pandarans is the big one, just that was a joke, and now it's an honored tradition part of that game.
Do you remember Gmail?
I do. That launched on the 1st,
and everyone thought it was an April Fool's joke, and it was because they were giving away at the time an astronomical amount of storage on Gmail.
It was like 10 gigabytes or something like that.
And everyone's like, that's impossible. You can't do that. Ha, ha, ha. And it turned out Gmail was a real thing, and Google was making an email service, which sounds like ancient history now, but it was a big deal.
It's a big gamble. Like, it's a good way to get eyes on an announcement because everyone's specifically looking out for stuff today. But it's not a great way necessarily to be taken seriously.
You know who's great about that, and it's not April Fool's, is Amazon is great about that. They always do some really crazy announcement right before Cyber Monday. So everyone's going to the Amazon website. Like, do you remember when they
announced the drones.
Yeah, the drones was the big one they did, where everything was going to be delivered via drones. And it wasn't set up like a hoax or anything like that. They were just like projecting way out that pretty soon you'll have a drone landing in your backyard delivering your Amazon product. Be like, no way. And then they go to the website.
I think I don't know if it's been PR stunts or something, but I think they've done a couple of like little tests or like a couple little cheeky little drone deliveries. But that's a service or a system I think is going to have a lot of trouble getting off the ground, as it were.
You got to give credit where credit's due as well. Is you worked for a company that did April Fools right, and that was IGN. IGN has a lot. They have a higher batting average than just about anyone else for doing good, well-received April Fools events.
What do you think the best known one is?
I like the one was Optimus Prime in Titanfall, or was that what it was, that he was coming to Titanfall?
For me, the big one is
the Zelda
is
one.
always the Zelda trailer.
Yeah, the Zelda trailer was probably the biggest one. And now that sounds weird because that was another thing. They did a trailer for a live-action Zelda, right? Is that what it was?
I can't remember if it was live action. I think it was. But yeah, it was a great trailer for a Zelda movie.
Right.
And came out on the 1st. IGN, I think, has always had quite a bit of fun with April 1st. They make it obvious enough.
Yeah.
But they do, do a bit of joshing around.
Right. But, April 1st was the day that I sat down. It was Red versus Blue, really. Rooster Teeth, the company, kind of came a few weeks after. I talked about this before. But even like naming the company Rooster Teeth is something I've always made fun of, Mm-hmm. But that's kind of more tongue-in-cheek. I actually don't like the April 1st anniversary date. The Rooster Teeth name is actually very useful simply because I didn't realize, even in 2003, how important it was to have it was about to become very important to have a uniquely searchable name. Like when you look up this thing, you're not going to find anything else. You're going to find this thing, and you're not going to find a poultry dentist somewhere in the world. And that goes back to even when I had the weird privilege to decide how I want to spell my own name. Like, because I got my nickname Burnie when I was a teenager, and I actually spelled it with an E for a while. And then I thought it sounded better since it was from my last name, Burnie. You spell it with a U. I even tried it with a Y at one point.
Wait.
Burney.
Bruni. Okay.
it's still Burnie. But people always when they write posts or comments or something, a lot of times they spell Burnie with an E, and everyone calls them out on it. It's like, that's got to piss Burnie off. It doesn't at all, because that's the right way to spell it. I'm sure they're getting auto-corrected. I spell my name the wrong way. I'm not going to hold anyone else accountable for spelling my name the right way, essentially.
I have a friend. She was one of my fellow frag dolls. You knew her, Brooke. And her gamer tag was Brooklyn. But instead of spelling it like the city, she spelled it like Brooke, Brooke, and then the Lynn part, Lyn.
Yeah, it fucked you up, didn't it?
To this day, anytime I try to refer to that part of New York City, I have to stop, I have to double check it, and I have to triple check it just to make sure, because now in my head, I just spell Brooklyn with an E.
Yeah,
so
it's locked in.
God,
nothing you can do about it.
Damn you, Brooke.
Yeah, nothing you can do about it.
You know what I do like, though, is I enjoy, do any of the games you play have Easter events?
The only thing I would play that would do that with a live service game would be Sea of Thieves. Speaking of Pal World, we haven't talked about the game since it came out. It was exactly what we expected. Everyone talked about it nonstop for about a week and then never really heard about it after that.
You know what, though? Developers are laughing all the way to the bank. They're okay.
Yeah, no, they're fine. They're fine. Yeah. It's early access, right? Still?
I think so.
Yeah. What's your favorite Easter live service event?
Well, so here's the trouble, is a lot of the types of games I play do these events. The big one...
Name names.
Animal Crossing.
There you go.
Is they don't last just the one day.
Mm-hmm.
These events stretch over weeks. So in Animal Crossing, this horrifying bunny shows up and replaces a bunch of your stuff with Easter stuff, and so you can't get a lot of your normal things during this Easter event. And it was funny, haha, for the first couple of days. And then for even the very first year, you're like, okay, we're done, bunny, knock it off. And he wouldn't. He held me hostage. Well, I'm playing a new game now. It's Disney Dreamlight Valley. It's like if Animal Crossing and Kingdom Hearts had a baby. It's that sort of you have your little.
They went in the Pal World dating simulator. And
yeah,
they popped
they
out
sure
a little offspring.
And
somebody didn't pull out.
This is my first.
Sorry, go ahead.
This is my first year playing. I wonder if they recognize the drop. And and there's an Easter event in this game as well, and a bunch of stuff that I'm just I'm being inundated with Easter eggs. And everyone wants to give me an Easter quest, and I'm like, knock it off.
So I couldn't think of anything when you said that first, but I remember that dungeon game we were talking about that I played on VR. I happened to play that in December. whatever, the space
it was
dungeons.
Called, hold on, it was Eternity.
Dungeons of Eternity.
Dungeons of Eternity. Okay.
Well, it just so happened I picked up the game during their Christmas event, so everything was Christmas themed. All the loot and drops that I would get,
And very weapons, wintry.
Yeah, like all the weapons were like candy canes and things like that. And so in my mind, that's a Christmas game because that's when I started playing it. So that's a danger of it. You have these events to kind of keep the existing players going, but then
new players come in. It's like confusing.
It skews what they think about it. Yeah. There's the big one in Sea of Thieves is Grogmania from Hogmania. So it's like Hogmany. Sorry, Hogmany. I say Mania because before I came here, I didn't know how to pronounce it, so I was saying Grogmania. But it's Hogmany, which is a very specifically like Northern UK New Year's tradition.
It's like the pagan Christmas.
Here we go with the pagans again.
Well, I just mean that they're trying to they're holding on to some of that older tradition for Sea of Thieves.
While we're talking about dates, and you just mentioned Easter, you and I had a conversation this weekend where I said, "Why is Easter in March? Isn't Easter an April holiday?" And you were like, "No, don't think so." And then we had a casual conversation of when does Easter fall? Like Ash, when is Christmas?
Christmas is the 25th of December.
And then a weird one, even like Thanksgiving. When is Thanksgiving?
Is the fourth Thursday of November.
Do you know when Easter is?
Last Sunday of March?
I looked this up on Wikipedia to determine when Easter is because it showed me Easter next year is like April 22nd or something like that. So I went and looked up what's the guidelines by which they determine when Easter falls. I'll look this up on Wikipedia. The date subsection for when Easter falls is a 29 paragraph entry.
What?
Did you know that Easter is a celestial lunar holiday and it has to take place after a full moon? Did you know that?
No.
It is wild. Like you read this, there is so much history in determining when Easter takes place based on what calendar, and different parts of the world follow Gregorian calendar. Other parts of the world follow a different calendar. It's fucking wild, Ashley. It's wild. You read this thing, there's even like a council in there at some points.
When there's a council of Easter.
Let me just read you one little section from this Wikipedia article. Okay, so this is just one paragraph out of 29. This is under the computations subsection of the Easter date. Easter is the third Sunday in the Paschal lunar month, or in other words, the Sunday after the Paschal lunar month's 14th day. The 14th of the Paschal lunar month is designated by convention as the Paschal full moon, although the 14th of the lunar month may differ from the date of the astronomical full moon by up to 2 days. Since the ecclesiastical new moon... Ecclesiastical, thank you. New moon falls on a date from 8th of March to 5th of April inclusive. The Paschal full moon, the 14th of that lunar month, must fall on a date from 22 March to 18 April inclusive. Gee, what in the world? I had no idea that Easter was so complicated.
No wonder there's an Easter council. They're out there with their, their tools, looking at the stars. Dear stars.
I just didn't know we had any lunar holidays.
When can we roll the boulder back?
I mean, I get they're trying to recreate the events that were around the resurrection and rise of Jesus, but that is wild. I didn't realize we had any lunar holidays left in the West.
Bring in the soothsayer. Correcting myself on something. I corrected you incorrectly. Hogmanay is indeed Scottish New Year. And
if you played Sea of Thieves, Ashley, for 5 years in a row, you would have known that. You definitely would have known that.
It's associated very much with going around to your neighbors' houses and being first through the door with a gift.
Yeah, I think we talked about this in our first couple podcasts.
Called first footing.
First footing. You got to get a dark-haired stranger going. Okay, so just if you're keeping score at home, this year Easter was on March 31st. And next year, it will be on April 20th.
That's a big swing.
Paschal? Ecclesiastical. Got to work on my pronunciations here.
But it was a fun Easter. I was never big on Easter necessarily, just, as an adult. It's not really the kind of, we're like, yay, eggs. You'd have brunch, maybe, and sleep in.
You love Easter.
I love Easter now. I love Easter now that I've got kids because like the hiding the eggs and putting together the Easter baskets and stuff like that. That's really fun. It's ridiculous watching this little kid running around like an insane person looking for eggs. And they're so easy to please, especially when they're very, very young, that you can just be walking along and like toss an egg in the grass next to them and be like, look at that. And they're so happy they just found an egg.
When he was 2 or 3, we had 3 Kinder eggs, and he had a basket, and I would literally chuck the eggs down the road like a path in front of us. He would then find it, put it in his basket. I would reach down behind him, pull it out without him seeing it, and chuck it. It was like this perpetual motion machine of joy.
He managed, out of the 3 eggs, he managed to collect like 50 eggs.
He loved it. He had an absolute blast with it. All right, in current events, let's talk about something that's going on in the world, which I've found to be very frightening. This is from Newsweek. Yeah, this is no foolsies. At least I hope it's not, you know? I mean, everything you hear today, who knows? I can't imagine it would be.
I don't think it is.
So this I just read, but this was actually from an article posted 6 days ago by Ellie Cook on Newsweek. Planes hit by mystery GPS jamming across Europe. Persistent interference with navigational signals in Eastern Europe impacted more than 1,600 planes, including civilian aircraft, in less than 2 days, according to open source analysis, as jamming plagues the airspace around the Baltic Sea. And there's a lot of people pointing fingers right now, but essentially it sounds like there was some kind of the equivalent of a DDoS attack on GPS satellites. I'm not really sure how that works, though. Like, I don't know how you jam your ability to connect with satellites.
Yeah, I don't know either, but they managed to jam basically everything in the region for, 2 days? And this isn't the first time it's been that it's happened in the region, but this sounds like the most sustained recent attack, whatever it is. And I worry that it's testing for something else.
It says this is not traditional GPS jamming, according to the open source group that analyzed it. These recent reports are GPS spoofing, and even then, not like anything that we've seen before. And a lot of people right now are wanting to point their fingers at Russia in particular, because they seem to be on the forefront of electronic warfare in just about every different arena, even social media at this point. I don't know. It just makes me think, Ash, like, you know, as we head down this road of more and more technology, it does seem like at some point technology gets so advanced that technology hinders itself because technology interferes with technology.
Well, it absolutely will. So let's take a look. First of all, something like SpaceX, right?
It's a good one.
Is doing their satellite internet, and they're putting how many satellites in orbit?
I think their goal eventually is to have, I think, somewhere upwards of 45,000 satellites in orbit.
So that is like one layer of things in orbit. And then there will also be many, many other layers. And then the idea of launching anything into space is going to have to take all of those obstacles into account, and it's just going to make everything that much more complicated. I like SpaceX as a service. I think it's doing a really good thing, making sure that no matter where you are, you can get internet. I think that's a great mission. It is going to interfere with other things. I know that astronomers, not a huge fan of all the satellites going up, but because it's ruining their view of the night sky, and they're going to have trouble seeing things properly because a lot of the stuff that they're looking at is so far away that it's very easy to obstruct with a small satellite.
Yeah. And, that was even going back to the 3-body problem, which I think sci-fi writers, they try to look ahead, and try to plan, where things are going and try to see future pitfalls. And one of the things in 3-body problem is that the view that people have now of the universe from Earth is different than anything that's based out in space because of something that's going on in the atmosphere, essentially. I don't want to give out any spoilers or anything like that. But it's pretty early in the series. So it's interesting, that just a little bit of distance away from Earth and all of our technology gets you to a point where you can see the universe the way that it's supposed to be.
There was a show. I think it only lasted for 1 or 2 seasons. It was called, I want to say it's called Almost Human. I'm going to look this up, but it had our favorite, The Boys gentleman in it, Carl Urban.
It
was Carl Urban. And
he's not the same in any role that he plays. I love it. Like, he was Bones in Star Trek. He was one of the Rohan riders in Lord of the Rings, and you would absolutely not recognize him in that role.
But in this series, it's like he's police. He's paired with an android And the idea is they're part of a division that's supposed to track sort of like technologically advanced crimes, because technology is advancing to the point where laws and like regular police technology can't keep up with it, which is kind of how, it happens. One of the things right now that's really big with things like OpenAI is they're trying to get as much done as possible before anyone figures out, how training can and should be done, right? It's the classic beg for forgiveness, ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah, sometimes it is definitely better to ask forgiveness than to ask for permission. Absolutely.
Well, it's definitely easier.
Well, Ash, I have some good news to end the podcast that you'll enjoy. Godzilla x King Kong, The New Empire.
My new favorite franchise.
Roared to an $80 million box office opening. I cannot think of a better Easter movie than Godzilla and Mecha Kong crossing a dimensional barrier to go fight the land of Kongs.
On it together, as a team, as family.
There was some family who, instead of being in church, was in the Godzilla movie. And they probably didn't think twice about it.
Just tell Grandma. The church was great.
All right. Well, that does it for us today. April 1st, 2024. We promise we're not fooling. We will be back to talk to you tomorrow. We hope you'll be here as well.
Bye, everybody.